All right, guys, we're back. It's another episode of the Fearless Pursuit of Freedom podcast, and today's guest is a guy I look up to. I've only met him about 10 months ago, but I'd like to just bring him on. Walter Walford, can you introduce yourself and tell us who you are, what you do, and where you live?
Thank you, Brandon. I'm in Jackson, Mississippi, and I'm old investor, 64 years old, and have been doing real estate, really. Well, I bought my first house in 1981. So that ought to tell you how many years I've been doing this.
Yeah.
And it was a seller finance deal, as was my next 16 houses were all seller financed. And I really think that's still a great way to go, even today, with the cheaper money.
Yep.
But I'm in Jackson. I do 4 or 5 different things, as you know. One of the things, my world revolves around the retirement account for funding. These are traditional Roth IRAs, inherited IRAs. You know about that too. But we completely kicked the banks to the curb about 15 years ago, and everything we do is funded through individuals and individual retirement accounts. That's one thing that we do. Number two thing that we do that I've really gotten into lately is the short-term rental business. I like that business, and it's like residual income, and it's a surprise because people don't usually book more than about 6 weeks out, I've found, in our market. But we stay busy. We've got our 8th and 9th door coming up within the next 20 days, and it's a great business, I think. And that's I'll probably stop at that, but that's it. Just look at it this way: $1,000 net per house per month with the debt on it. That's how much money you can make.
Not bad. About 3 times more than what people are expecting with rentals.
A lot more. And the other thing I like about it is any problem you have, you can buy your way out of. It's a short-term problem.
Yeah.
If the sewer stops up, you write them a check and say, go stay at a hotel.
Right.
And it's just every problem is short-term. I like that.
Yeah, same here.
So that's about all I got on that topic.
You said you're in 4 or 5 things, right?
Well, yeah, I do educational events in Jackson, as you know. You've been doing a couple of them a year.
Yep.
I like to do them, bring people in my marketplace because it's a way of attracting dollars, other people's retirement account dollars, and the networking is the most important thing of all. Quincy Long of Quest IRA and I have teamed up to build a network, Financial Friends Network, which doesn't cost anything to join. And the way that you get invited is to send me an email, and I'll invite you to this group. And right now we just hit 1,800 people, and these are like-minded people. I'm not trying to build a huge list for just the list's sake. I want to get people that are interested in IRAs and seller financing and business type people that want to play on a higher level than most investors. And so you can just email me at walterwofford@gmail.com, WOFFORD@gmail.com, Walter Wofford. And just send me an email and I'll invite you, and then you can post. It's a forum that you can post, or you can ask for a funding source, or you can pitch a property, and you will get some response.
Yeah, it's on Podio, and a lot of questions daily. Often I see where people are asking questions, and just random people across the country are jumping on and answering for everybody.
Well, I'll tell you how powerful it is. I've just had a very short post last week, said I've got 2 notes to sell at a discount, and didn't give any more information than that. And I had 15 people reach out to me and say, I'm interested in what you got. So it's a live, breathing network.
Yeah, no, definitely. There's a few topics I wanted to go into. One of them was the Financial Friends Network, because I do a lot of traveling with the group, and we've got Portugal coming up next month.
That's right.
And it's we're like less than 30 days away now. Actually, no, we're 3 weeks away now.
It's a lot closer than that.
We're 3 weeks away now.
Well, we're flying out 2 weeks from Friday.
Oh.
We're going a couple of days early.
Okay. Yeah, I think we're going to stay a couple of days late.
So Quincy and I put on these trips. We have educational trips, and those are cruises where we have a bunch of speakers, and the speakers come from our audience. And so it's people that are doing specific things. And so it's a 20-minute TED Talk presentation. And we've had as many as 50 presentations on a 7-night cruise. Mm-hmm. And then we've had, this one probably won't have many more than 30 because 2 days are going to be in Cuba. And so we won't have any presentations those 2 days. So really it's a 5-day presentation instead of 7. So we do that. So that's in May of 2019.
Yeah. Actually, just got approval from my daughter's parent or wife or mother. So we've got her coming out and approving them to go on the cruise. So the girls are going with us on this trip.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So first time they'll be out of country, and I think it'll be exciting. But they'll be out having fun swimming on the deck while I'm downstairs learning. And
I know you're going to be in the class all the time. You're a hungry learner.
Yeah, trying. So you do low income owner financing for people in your community.
Well, I prefer to call it workforce. Okay. Affordable housing.
Affordable housing. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah. Well, so what is that? That's a house that might appraise for as high as 60 in our market, which would be a 1,400 square foot, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. Yep. And we typically, we sell them less than appraised value. We're trying to give the tenant buyer a little skin in the game.
Yeah.
A little equity. So what we do is we match their monthly payment up with what they can afford and make it as short a mortgage as they can stand. I'll give you an example. I bought a house last year and inherited a tenant that was paying $825, but he wasn't paying regularly because he couldn't afford the rent. We have a big percentage of our houses where the tenants are overburdened, and that by definition that means that pays more than 30% of their take home in housing costs. Mm-hmm. So that you'll see that rent overburden term if you search for it. They use that in a lot of the statistical sites, and Eviction Lab. You ought to look at that sometime. It's a free site that shows the eviction rate. And in Jackson, we have a high eviction rate, and I'm sure it's because they're overburdened with the rents. We got high rents and low cost compared to other markets. Mm-hmm. And so this tenant, I went to him and said, "Why can't you pay?" And he said, "Well, I don't make enough money." This particular guy worked 2 4-hour shifts as a contractor for the Postal Service, and they weren't back-to-back shifts, 4 hours in the morning and come back 4 hours at night later on. So I said, "Well, what can you afford?" He said, "I can afford $600." So I said, "Well, let's just adjust your payment down. I'll sell you the house, finance it for you." And we put it on a 10-year note, and his all-in payment, taxes, insurance are $597. So since we did that, he's right where he needs to be. And so basically we bought it for 20 and sold it for 40 with financing. And that's a pretty typical deal that we do. It's an 8% note. And then what I'll do, I'd say, "Brandon, you got an IRA. Why don't you buy half the mortgage? It's an 8% yield. So I'll turn around and sell you half the mortgage, and I keep half the payment with no investment. You keep half the payment with an investment." Right. And the key to this, the main point I got to leave the listening audience with is you've got to buy these with retirement accounts. The reason is the capital gain will kill you on the sale. Buy it for 20, sell it for 40. That's a taxable event unless it's in a retirement account.
Yeah.
And so that's the key. Buy it with your retirement account, create and rent it for a while. Then, and which I did in this case, I actually rented it for 6 months after I bought it with my IRA. And then, so we kind of got a track record. We know what's wrong with the house and what's wrong with the tenant, if there is anything. And then we'd sell it. And that's a very repeatable transaction. So buy it for 40, buy it for 20, sell it for 40, and then sell off a piece of the mortgage. So my IRA would get, it was a $497 principal and interest payment that we created. So I'd get half of that, and you'd get half of that with your retirement account. And so, then we take it over to a servicer, a national servicer, to have complete transparency.
Right. Yeah, the servicer for the note that will divide the funds to each other's IRAs. Yeah.
They send it. And it's pretty good because they're escrowing taxes and insurance.
Yep.
And I just think, that the servicer is critical in this process too. And the reason it's critical is because I'm always looking what happens if I'm incapacitated.
Right.
For health or accident reasons. How is all this stuff going to be managed? Because we're creating things that are 10 years in the future, and 15 years,
right.
10 to 15 years in the future. So I can't rely on my current staff or me. I need a business that in business for that. And that's why the services are here.
Right. Yeah. Because if something were to happen, how is the missus going to pick up everything that you've been doing over the past?
Well, she hadn't picked it up yet. There are a lot of real estate spouses that don't care anything about what the rainmaker does, and she's one of them. And she enjoys the benefits of it, right?
Yeah.
But I've got two sons that are in a property management business here in Jackson, so I've got a real leg up. And I think about you start thinking about how you're going to retire your rental portfolio as you retire your work.
Yep.
How does that go down like that? And for me, creating these tax-free income streams that will take me past my lifetime and my wife's lifetime is what I'm trying to do. And you know what? It's a good business because there's no reason for me to stop doing it just because I'm getting older.
Right.
And unless I'm physically or health-wise to stop, I don't ever intend on retiring. I'm going to create a note the day I go to the hospital.
And these accounts you're doing, well, these owner finances you're doing in your IRAs, so that way you can pass them down to your children and grandchildren, potentially.
They would inherit the IRA, but you got a good point. Once our bucket gets full, then we can then fill up other family members' buckets with the same technique.
Yeah. Well, the way you're doing it, I think, is far smarter than. So I deal a lot with probates here in Dallas area. I market to affidavit of heirships and probates, and a lot of times these people are selling houses because either it was already a rental property and they inherit it and they have no idea what to do because they don't want to deal with the management, they don't want to deal with the maintenance and the tenants and all that stuff. But with the owner finances and putting the servicer in place, everything's pretty much cut and dry. Here's your inherited IRA or however the properties are passed down, and then it's already being serviced, and there's already a homeowner in there already doing the work. And so essentially it's a plug and play model for the inheritor.
Well, and there's something else that the landlords that don't like this idea. I want to rent it. I want to get maximum rent. I guarantee you I'm going to make more money than they will over the term. If we're just looking at cash flow. Now, They may make more money if the market swings up, but we know it swings up and swings down.
Yeah.
But this guy who's got a $597 fixed cost with taxes, insurance for 10 years, he's got something to pass on to his heirs.
Mm-hmm.
Or so. That's a pretty fast amortizing loan.
Oh, yeah.
10 years. So what it does is it takes out the volatility. What I don't like about the landlording world, and I've been a landlord since 1981, is the turnover kills you, your cash flow.
Oh, yeah.
When I was back 10 years ago, I went through a period of liquidating some nicer properties, and I sold 18 of them, one a month for 18 months. And every month I had to pull out $15,000 to renovate that house in order to sell it.
Yeah.
That's called negative cash flow.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you have a homeowner in there who, unless some life event comes along, like they lose a spouse or they get sick or something happens, they're going to continue making the payment because they can't go anywhere any cheaper than the house that they're living in.
Right, because your strategy is specifically to get them into a payment that's cheaper than market rents or what they were even paying because you'll buy these properties tenanted.
Well, they went from 825 to 597. So it's kind of like I'm giving them crack cocaine, you know.
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm trying to get them hooked in there and
Yeah.
for their own good too.
All
Now
right.
last year we had 3 of our borrowers lose their spouse.
Wow.
And so that interrupted the flow of the payments.
Yep.
And so what I did is I gave them time to recover. I didn't hassle them about it, but I said, when you get on your feet, I want you to come back. And what we did is we just took those missed payments and put them on the tail end with a
Yep.
loan modification. And so this is a people business. It's not a push button business at all.
Right.
You're involved with these people's lives and the children's lives forever. And I tell you what else I really like is I always interview the occupants, what their skill set is and who they know.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the area, I'm working in 3 zip codes, and in the area that I focus in, I use my borrowers and borrowers' family members to help do the work. So I'm creating a kind of a micro economy in my area, helping
Right.
people be employed, painters and roofers and electrician. My main electrician is a borrower, and he's got about 30 more payments, and he'll be done with the payments.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool, isn't it?
No, that's awesome. And that's one way to ensure you're getting paid, making sure you get work.
Well, we do have a relationship, you know.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And you've sold several of your houses to family members of family members. And you've got one case where you got 3 siblings or family members.
Sold it to a young man and his wife, a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. He actually cried at the closing table. He never thought he'd own a house. And we pay referral fees if they bring us another buyer.
Yeah.
And so he said, my mama wants a house. And so she's older than me. She's 67, and she had never owned a house. But what happened to the son's sister had 2 small children, and she was killed in an automobile accident. So his mama had to take the babies, and so she had a need for a bigger house.
Yep.
So we got a really nice house. She's very happy with it. And then the aunt, his aunt, the sister of the mama, she bought a house, and she's very happy with it too.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, that's how it works. You family members.
Yeah. And why'd you choose the Jackson market? Is it for this model specifically?
Well, this is where I am. I don't care about investing in any other market. You know, it's hard enough to invest in your own backyard.
Yeah.
I mean, it's management. But I have the advantage of you tell me a street, and I know the street, and you tell me the number, I probably know the house. Because of the streets. But I'm not working the whole metropolitan area. I'm just working 3 zip codes.
Right.
And let me tell you why I picked those. And you know this, but the audience may not. In Mississippi, across the each zip code, the average rental household is about a third. A third of all households are rentals across Mississippi. In the zip codes I'm working, it's twice that. So what I'm trying to do is turn the rental market into a homeowner market because, I mean, the premise is that they make better neighbors and the family situation is better, right? Neighborhoods improve. And I'm trying to reverse this trend of putting HUD tenants in neighborhoods. I want to put a family in. I know there's a place for HUD tenants, but there's not a place in my world for HUD tenants.
Right.
That's just not what I'm going to do because I can't sell them a house. They've sold out to the government today saying, look, I won't ever be a homeowner.
Yep. Well, you're turning neighborhoods around and
trying to do it.
Yeah. And I see there's even some new build neighborhoods out here in Texas where they won't allow investors to buy on the first go around at all. And they'll vet you on it. And I think what happens is typical when a lot of investors come in and they buy these houses and turn them into rental neighborhoods, they tend to be run down. That seems to be typically what happens with renters, whereas what you're doing is turning them from a rental neighborhood into a homeowner neighborhood and ultimately turning them into nicer neighborhoods.
Well, it's a battle of the mindset of the landlord that is just going after the tenant. And we've got some volume buyers in our market. We actually have 3 hedge funds buying now.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have 3 that I know of. See, our market is 173,000 people, okay, in the city of Jackson. Our metropolitan area is double that, but I work in Jackson. And so I gave a talk at our local club, RIA Club, on Thursday, and I said, all right, you volume buyers, what do you do with them? Well, they turn them into rentals, whether it be a turnkey provider, and we've got 3 in our market that will sell 100 to turnkey, but that's for rental.
Right.
And then the hedge funds, they're buying it for rentals.
Yep.
All right. So the main one that's in our town now, they bought about 300 in a year. And if you go look at all 300 of them, probably 10 of them are rented. Most of them they hadn't even touched.
Really?
So they're not helping the neighborhoods by leaving them. I know this for a fact because I sold them a house a year ago, and I went by it this past week, and they hadn't done one thing to the house. And I don't know how that makes any sense, but it certainly is not helping the neighborhood.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of weird things with these hedge funds where they'll either chase the small yields just to hide their capital. They're Japanese companies typically, or they'll use it as some sort of tax sheltering, or even as a portfolio to run portfolio loans off of the single family to put in the multifamily. I've seen that too, where they'll just board them up for years and just let them sit there.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a weird thing.
They got more money than I got.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, they're playing a longer game.
Yeah. I mean, I just sold a house to a hedge fund out here. It's a Japanese hedge fund. It was worth $225. They bought it at $190 and it still needed $30K in rehab. So I'm like, what are they chasing here? And it was a 1,300 square foot house. So the rents were maybe $1,450 and they're buying something all in at $220. I just don't see where the numbers work. But ultimately, there's something going on in Japan right now where something about double taxation. So they're trying to put their money out here no matter the yield or return on the capital. It's a weird thing I'm seeing right now.
Well, it really doesn't make much sense to me, but apparently somebody's given it some thought.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And shows that as a model. All right, Brandon, let me I want to ask you to do something. As I told you earlier, I got to run off to a doctor's appointment in just a minute, but I'd like to come back and talk about some specific topics when you'll have me back.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about using title holding trusts. So we can dedicate a session to that, both for holding mortgages and for houses.
Okay.
I'd like to come back and talk about seller financing when you're selling. Right. And a separate altogether would be seller financing when you're buying. Okay. And that's 2 separate topics.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And then we can talk about the small dollar IRAs, what to do with small amounts of money with your IRAs. And there are a lot of great plays that you can use small dollars and joint venture with others and split them. And I'll just give you an example going back to that hedge fund that bought that house a year ago. Quincy Long and I bought that house. And so it was a $55,000 house. And we listed it for $99 and sold it for $92. But let me tell you how we structured it. So I had a very small dollar go in with Quincy's pension plan that put up most of the money. Okay. And we had a joint venture agreement that says each party gets back theirs from sale proceeds, and then we split the profit. And in this case, it was 50-50.
Yeah.
So my small investment, let's call it $5,000, and his $50,000 went in together. We owned it jointly in a trust, and then when it was sold, he got his 50, I got my 5 back. But then we split the profit. That was about $14,000 each.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great technique for you're combining. Somebody's got to be a catalyst for the deal provider, and then somebody's got to be the money guy. Yep. Now you can be all of those people, but it's much better to have a team effort. It limits your downside when you do that.
Right. Yeah. I had a conversation with the guy the other day, and I don't want to take up too much more time, but I was trying to explain to him your model of joint venturing on these deals where it can be split the 50-50 on the back end if the one guy is running the business, the other guy is simply just the money maker. And you're able to do that tax free on the back end because that one guy is doing all the work while the other guy's simply the money guy only. And I was trying to explain it to him, but it went a whole lot of nowhere, and he was trying to do it his way. But I would love to have a conversation in depth about that because, as you know, I've got several small dollar IRAs, and a lot of people I know have them as well. And venturing together with somebody would just make my day.
Well, you find deals, or you know people that find deals.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yep.
And so you don't have to be the deal maker. You need to know people who are the deal maker.
Yep.
And so, I mean, that's the best of all worlds. Have somebody else find it. You have somebody put some money up, and you're in the middle as a transaction maker.
Okay. That'll work too.
So if you'll allow me to come back somewhere down, whenever it's a good time for you, I'd love to do that.
Yeah. I mean, anytime. Yeah, you've got so many things I want to talk about. It's hard to get it all in one event. So I guess it'd be better just to split it all up into the 3 separate topics.
I like that. And so I have to beg off. Sorry.
No big
Doctors
deal.
over there, they're blowing up my phone to come here and get the blood work done. Let's go.
Yeah, no big deal. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, appreciate you coming on. I'll shoot you another link for us to get back on and discuss each one into detail. So
wonderful.
All right. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
See you.
Thanks, Walter.